it's been around for a very long time. Like these topics have been around for a very long time, like relative for us. But in saying that, I think a lot of the content or the context, I think in many different parts of the world has been suppressed quite a bit. So for example, like when they first went, oh, there's this thing called an ozone and there's a hole in it. People were like, nah, what are you talking about? Like invisible things in the sky with a hole in it. Hole's always there. And then they go, wait, hold on a second. Like cancer is going up in this part of the world and there's like a hole like above that. And we got to figure out like, why is this hole getting bigger? And then they, did something about it. Now, when we look at the
very quickly too,
very quickly, and if we look at the wider context, the future changes that we need to make, fundamentally, it doesn't sound difficult. But from a social and economic perspective, it's incredibly difficult because, once again, it requires a global effort, everyone to come together, support each other, share technology, as well as data. Like data is such a big thing, right? Like share data, like what's actually happening, which means that this conversation, though it fundamentally doesn't sound terribly difficult, it requires constant thought and rethought, and it changes all the time. It's a really interesting one. Like Al Gore's documentary was pivotal in many ways. But since
it's what got me into this.
Yeah. But since then, we've had so many more little bits and pieces here and there that have come out. And then you've got bigger groups of people working on stuff. And then, of course, you've got the other side lobbying against it. So it's just a constantly evolving space.
Yeah, it's a real shame that there's such divisiveness around clean energy, around climate change. And it's, it's funny because even the folks who are put the big dollars behind it, it's not that they don't understand the science behind climate change or don't believe it, right? It's that they fundamentally see it as a threat to their profits.
Their way of life, even.
Yeah, their way of life. And so, for instance, oil companies, right? They've been designing around increased sea level rise since the 70s. So they've known what's going to happen and have been putting money behind making their offshore drill stations more resilient to high level sea rise. But they're also putting money to make it confusing and make the average person think, oh, is this really that bad? Is it? I mean, it's the same tactics that were used for cigarettes, right? It went from cigarettes being recommended, 4 out of 5 doctors recommend this brand of cigarettes, to, oh, cigarettes is killing folks. And then there was this whole decade plus 2 decades of discourse around, is it really that bad? Is it, how bad is cigarettes? Till now, it's like, everybody knows it's bad. Everybody knows. Everybody accepts that. They still smoke maybe, but they accept that it's a cancer stick, right?
Yeah. I'm actually really excited about what's happening in the auto industry. In the sense, like every year you hear more and more auto manufacturers saying, by this date, we're going to be fully electric, or by this date, we're going to look at this particular technology and hopefully bring it into the market space. It seems like electric vehicles on one side, hydrogen on the other side. But if we can make either of them work for the world, then we're solving a really big problem here potentially.
Oh yeah, this very encouraging. I hope all of those vehicle manufacturers are also looking at bidirectional charging, which means that instead of having to get a fixed battery in your home, you just plug your car into your home and it can provide electricity. And the Nissan Leaf is 5 times larger than the Tesla Powerwall, right? It could charge your home for 3 days. And like that is a game changer. So it's not only you're driving, you're not polluting the area, you're also, if the grid goes out, you just plug your car in, you're good, right? So transportation, electric transportation has the potential to be a complete game changer, and more companies are looking at it. And there's new companies popping up too about it, which is exciting because it's no longer just the same 10 companies globally that are running everything.
Exactly. And that's a really interesting point that you brought up. So I was reading an article quite recently So Canberra, I believe Canberra had some natural disaster that hit it, and there were quite a few houses in that area where electricity went out. A couple actually did retrofit their Nissan Leaf to provide energy back into their house, and they used it sparingly over the course of 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it was, so that they would have their kettle working or their washing machine working, whatever it is, charge their devices basically. So yeah, a lot of potential there, 100%.